What up team, it's your boy MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video talking about the brand new fusion that was just announced, our Halloween fusion. Now I did a video on this talking about what we should and kind of need as a player base, and they kind of delivered, much to my surprise. And yes, so I'm pretty happy about that. I was talking about CC, champion, all of that. So let's go over the kit. We do have another undead legendary. Do we need those? Absolutely not. This is a support magic affinity legendary named Morrigaine. So what does she do? Let's go over it. We have Haunt with Hesitation, A1 ability, attacks one enemy having a 50% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff. For 2 turns, this goes up to a 70% chance on an A1. Once she is fully booked on that A1, pretty high odds for sure, even though it only hits 1 target. Next, we have an A2 of Shriek of the Banshee, having a 75% chance of stealing all buffs from a target enemy, also having a 75% chance of placing a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Really like this. This is that crowd control that I was talking about. As you can see from the bottom, it is 100% once fully booked. Will also place a 50% decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns instead if the target is a boss. So, and I really do think this is something worth noting and talking about, because very rarely in the champions previous to this one does Plarium ever compensate players for having a type of debuff like True Fear that cannot affect bosses. It ends up just being something that hits the boss, does a little bit of damage, and that's it. I do like how they changed it up a little bit and added a semi-useful debuff that does only apply to bosses, since the original debuff that is in the kit cannot affect bosses at all. So once this is fully booked, on top of a 100% chance of stealing and placing that True Fear, we also get a nice 3-turn cooldown on top of that. Next, we have the A3 ability, Velocimancy. This is a 5-turn cooldown baseline. As you can see from the bottom, it is a 4-turn cooldown once fully booked, has a 75% chance up to 100 once fully booked of decreasing the turn meter of all enemies by 20%. Fantastic. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 20% and places a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. So this is absolutely something to get excited about for sure. It won't take you too long to realize this is very similar to Lyssandra's ability. Next, we have her passive, She Who Is Death. Really cool name for sure. At the start of each turn, places a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns on the enemy with the lowest HP. So if it's arena, probably the nuker. If it's any other content, it's going to be on whoever has the lowest base HP in the champion kit, if you are doing something like Doom Tower or the dungeon waves. This debuff cannot be removed, transferred, spread, or have its duration increased or decreased by enemies or allies. One thing I do notice right away is it does not say it cannot be blocked. So as far as the passive being extremely detrimental and useful in an arena setting, I don't see that, because immunity gear is quite common. But I'm going to talk about some of the initial reaction and views of myself on where players can use this champion. And finally, to wrap everything up, you have an aura, increases ally speed in all battles by 19%. Another fantastic addition to this champion, not kind of condensing her to only dungeons, only arena. It is flat across the board, increasing ally speed in any type of content you plan on doing with this champion. So now that we talked about the champion, I want to talk about which type of player group do I think this is going to benefit the most. So if you're newer to the game, if you're kind of in the mid game, whether it's an alt account or you're just a brand new player, this champion is going to be fantastic. She gives you that really solid boost of turn meter, increased speed. You also have that speed aura on top of things, really rounding out her kit. She also has CC, so it's a little bit similar, like I said, to Lyssandra earlier. But instead of a kind of hard-hitting single target ability like Lyssandra has that fully depletes the target's turn meter, she instead is given a 3-turn cooldown of an AoE True Fear, which can be very, very strong in any type of progression format. Once you start getting later on into the game, it's probably going to be most beneficial in something like Faction Wars. I know that's kind of an easy cop-out to kind of label any type of champion, but her kit actually fits better than most. This isn't really like a, oh, she's not good anywhere else, so I have to say she's good in Faction Wars if you are on the late game portion of progression. But her kit, I mean, kind of speaks for herself with that strong A3 called Velocimancy, which is definitely a fun word to say, and as well as the A2, providing you with that AoE CC. Now, the one thing worth talking about that we cannot see at the moment is going to be this champion's base stats. that isn't going to determine too much because she has a pretty good and solid base as far as her kit goes. There is some pretty clear synergy as to which champions you can use this with and which champions you probably want to stay away from using with pairing with someone like Morrigaine. However, if this champion has high base speed, this can definitely be an even stronger contender than I'm already predicting it is going to be for the early game and mid game players, pushing that value all the way through to the late game. And I know I haven't mentioned end game here. As far as end game goes, it's almost impossible to kind of look at a champion without testing them for an end game player and an end game point of view, because gear sets, of course, champion synergy, and basically what she brings to the table cannot be properly evaluated on a single champion basis. So as far as endgame, nothing really stands out to me, nothing too special about this champion for sure. While she is similar to Lyssandra, if we go back once again to Lyssandra's actual kit, Lyssandra has a 30% turn meter fill and a 30% turn meter decrease, as opposed to this champion that has a 20% fill and 20% decrease, so slightly worse than Lyssandra. So if you're currently using Lyssandra, I definitely wouldn't say she's going to be an improvement over her unless you can find a very impactful way to get 100% value out of that A2 ability. Once again, only talking about the end game players. Outside of that, after looking at the kit here, it's clear this is going to be an accuracy based champion, which once again relates to the original point I just started talking about as far as her base statistics. As long as they are good, she is going to be a good champion for those progression groups that I did in fact talk about. If she has low base HP, low base defense, and lower speed, it's going to greatly affect this champion. So hopefully they thought that over, because this can be such a strong champion to give the overall player base that are going through the early to mid stages of progression for sure. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this deep dive of a video. Give me your thoughts. Are you going to be fusing this champion? I know it's rather hard to tell just based off of reading a kit here. I tried to go as in-depth as I possibly could on everything here that's going to be relevant to this champion simply from reading the information that Plarium has given me. But as always, I am curious to hear your feedback on the champion. How do you think she compares to the past fusions we've had if you've been playing for long enough, specifically the past Halloween fusions? Can you already say for certain that she's going to be a sure fuse for you, simply based off me reading her kit to you and you reading it yourself on the screen? Quickly going over the books here, we have 4, 7, 10 total books, so it's not that heavy on the book spectrum. While books are still hard to get and 10 can cost quite a bit, if you are lucky enough you can get away with 6 books, but let's be honest, we all know that at least 2 are going to hit the A1 ability if you are planning to book this champion. Alright guys, that's going to conclude my video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.